Welcome to the first ever Romaru podcast. Today, we are going to start by announcing some pretty big news. Well, we've already announced it a little bit, I guess. We've teased it somewhat on Instagram. And what is that news?
We're moving to France, y'all.
Specifically, where in France?
We are moving to the French Riviera, to Nice, France. So excited. We're going to live on the Med, guys. This is it. We've done a lot of crazy things in life, but this might be one of our craziest because it's not just the two of us. We are bringing our daughter and our dog. The whole crew is going to France. Let's do this.
So let's set the stage. Right now, we are surrounded by boxes, chaos, and just absolute frustration of moving. We are about 1 week away from actually boarding an overnight flight to France, and there's still a lot of unknowns. It's been a long journey to get to here, and we'll try to cover some of that at this point. I mean, what else is going on? We like right now, I don't know why. There's so much to unravel. Should we talk about our dog first?
Yeah, sure. Let's dig into the dog. So we're bringing our dog. She's amazing. Her name's Lucy. She's a 15-pound toy Australian Shepherd. And France has specific requirements in order for her to be accepted into the country, which means that she has to go to a specific vet in the United States called a USDA accredited vet. We have to send the paperwork over, but get this. You can't send the paperwork until 10 days before your flight. So here we are, less than 10 days out, haven't heard a peep from the USDA. So we're hoping, fingers crossed, that Lucy will be approved to fly. And if she's not, we need to build a contingency plan stat.
Yeah, so of all the things we're dealing with, I mean, you mean moving to a place where we don't even speak the language, and now we don't even know if our dog's going to make it. So that's one. I mean, that's just some of the problems we're dealing with, some of the stress. We don't know what we're packing completely. We don't know how it's going to fit. But I think we should even back up a little more and talk about kind of why are we moving abroad?
There are so many reasons, I think, why we're moving abroad, but
like, how did it start? How did this
a crazy idea, like it always does, like a big idea, like, no, we can't do that type of idea. Those are the best type of ideas, right? 5 years ago, this stage, it's 2019. We're in Europe, actually. I say to Scott, I want to get my Italian passport. We were in Florence, I believe. And you said, why would you do that?
I said, I didn't understand. So what's the point? It's going to cost how much? Thousands of dollars to get your passport? Why?
Yeah, so this is why, everybody, if I have my Italian passport, my Italian citizenship, I can live, work, and study anywhere in the EU. That opens up a whole world of possibility and opportunity, not just for me, but for us as a couple and as a family. So,
and for Scotland as well.
Yes, and for future children. Now, I start the process. I also recruit my brother and sister to the process. We hire an immigration attorney, send our paperwork in, and now, mind you, I'm getting my citizenship through Ancestry. I could get it on my mom or dad's side, getting it through my mom's side from Bari, Italy.
But who is it specifically? It's your great
It was through my great-grandparents.
They came over, they were born and then moved over to the US.
They were born in Italy and moved over to the US.
Because of the war, actually.
Yes. So we start the process in 2019. Then COVID happens. We also move embassies from Los Angeles to New York, start the process kind of all over again. So it took 5 full years, but in May of 2024, I finally became an Italian citizen. And so did our daughter.
But you knew it was coming like in March, I feel like. It was a few months before. You knew like everything was approved. They were just sending the final documents, right?
Yes, exactly. But as I've learned with all of this Italian bureaucracy and now French bureaucracy, things take longer than expected. So I just didn't have any idea of the timeline that this would actually come through. So 2 months later, when I got the approval and the appointment at the embassy in New York City, and then my passport just less than a week later, it all happened so fast after happening so slow.
And so we knew that was happening. And then it was March we were in Europe?
It was April for her birthday, yeah.
So we knew you were approved. We knew you were an Italian citizen. And we started talking about it. And the idea, we said, okay, here we are. We've always talked about living abroad. We finally have an opportunity. We can do it. We can live in Italy. We can live anywhere in the EU. Do we really want to do this? And so we had a trip planned, and we kind of used that as like a location scouting vacation. So we went to the Netherlands. Where else did we go? We went to, what was the Netherlands?
We went 2 places in the Netherlands. We went to Amsterdam and to The Hague. And then we went to Florence, Italy, which is one of our favorite places on earth. Turns out to vacation because we decided this is not the place for us to live.
Yes, we truly thought, oh, we're going to live in Florence. We love it. It's our favorite spot. We've been there probably 10 times. And during our time there, one of the biggest things that turned us off was the playgrounds. We took Scotland to go play, and they just weren't kept up. And it was like, okay, if we're going to move here and bring her in every day, we're going to have to deal with this. And it was just a little bit grittier. And so then we started looking a little bit more, and we spoke to our friends who live in the Netherlands. They're Americans. And we thought, hey, we're going to basically be your neighbors. And they said, that's a great idea if you're going to live here. But if you're going to come just for a year and you can live anywhere, why don't you live somewhere fabulous?
And that is our plan, just to go for a year and then we will reassess.
That's the lie we tell ourselves.
That's the plan as of now. Obviously, things can change.
So we started looking. And as simple as it sounds, we literally just opened Google Maps and started looking at cities, and we had some criteria. And what was that criteria?
Let's see. We wanted a city that was big enough to have options for multiple schools. We wanted lots of restaurants and things to do. We wanted great playgrounds and parks. Ideally, good weather. And Amsterdam and The Hague don't often provide that. What else did we want?
It literally was CrossFit.
CrossFit
Was one to build it, because the important thing is to build a community. And we've always found it's easy to build a community around a CrossFit gym.
Because you suffer together.
You suffer together. Weather was one. And then just kind of size. We didn't want a massive city. We didn't want to go to Paris. We thought that'd be too big. But we also didn't want some sleepy town on the countryside where we wouldn't be able to make friends easily. So we kind of wanted that Goldilocks zone.
Oh, and I think somewhat of an expat community. So we would, meet others that were going through similar adventures.
So we made a list. The list consisted of some cities in northern Italy, some cities on the coast of France, on the southern coast of France, Amsterdam, The Hague, and then we kind of slowly narrowed it down. And I think what the deciding factor was the experience in Florence, and then also our friends' experience. They lived in Paris for a few years, and their kids' experience with the creche, which is the nursery school system, was just so magical. We knew that it would be a fun, enjoyable experience for Scotland and ourselves as well.
Yes.
So and let's expand a little bit on the creche, what that is and why we loved it so much, or we're excited to.
Yeah. So there is a private creche system and a public creche system. Now, the public creche you basically have to apply for when you're pregnant. I mean, it's that competitive. So we're obviously out of that. And Scotland is 2 years old. So I talked to a few people in France and reached out to some experts. Justina from Your Friend in Paris is a great resource. She's a great blog. And I set up a consultation with her about schools in France, what to expect, what to look for, how to apply, etc. She taught me about the private creche system, which you can apply for. And now I looked up something called the Marie, which is the basically municipal hall of a town. And you can find out all of the creche names in that town or city. Now I called a bunch of them, also went online and applied on their websites. And I heard back from a few actually. And even though it's very competitive, I did get spots at a few different creches. Now we chose the one that was in the center of the city of Nice, and it's a journey. But one of the best things I think about the creche system is the lunches, the school lunches. Get this, 3-course lunches every single day, fresh food delivered or created right on the property. How amazing is that?
Yes, that's right. You're hearing that correctly. These little toddlers sit down and have 3-course meals.
Isn't that crazy? So yeah, our friends that live in the Netherlands, they sent their daughter to creche in Paris, and they said it was the funniest thing because there's all these, little babies and toddlers sitting at a table, just actually sitting down and breaking bread together. And I'm excited for this. So
there's that. That was a big thing.
Yes. And it's about half the price of US daycare, which is crazy because if you're an American parent, it is unsustainable, y'all.
So let's see. So that's kind of how we chose France.
That was a lot.
That was a lot. But that's kind of, it wasn't the most scientific. And also, we never actually spent a lot of time in Nice, which sounds insane. But it's one of those things where we're kind of making a bit of a leap of faith.
Yeah, I mean, we have a hypothesis that it's a great fit, and we're going to go test that. That's all. And if it's not, then we'll adapt and change course.
So that's how we picked France. And now we are a week away.
And is it also because our love of wine?
That's true.
I think that was partial influence there.
But let's talk about like why we're doing it. You know, what it also expands. So we talked about France. Might as well expand about some of the other benefits. You talked about how it's free healthcare. Free childcare.
Free childcare.
But just expand on all those numbers.
Well, it's free childcare starting at age 3, but it is offset childcare from when you start at creche, which is around, it could be 4 months old. So we get reimbursed a certain amount of money at the creche. So it ends up being, we're paying less than half of what we would pay at daycare in the United States.
So we're predicting we're going to spend, what is it, $5,000 for the year?
No, it's full time. So anytime between 8 and 6, although we're not going to have her go that long. Plus lunches are included and all the diapers and all of that are included. And it, I have to do the math right now. We're going to do it. Let's see. Approximately 8,000
total
and for the full year. That's a full year minus, I think, 3 weeks in August.
This is full care. And the same thing here would be 17.
Oh, it's going to be more than that. More. Yeah, specifically where we are. If we wanted to do something half-time, like part-time, maybe we could get in the 14 range, I would say. But no, it's really rough around here. And there's no subsidies, reimbursement.
So this is a massive, it's a massive savings.
Yes.
It's going to be a big change for us too.
It is. And also you started talking about the healthcare. You don't qualify for healthcare right away because you're not a citizen, an EU citizen, but Scott will qualify once he gets his visa, which will be the spouse of an EU citizen visa. And Scotland and I will qualify for healthcare 3 months after arrival as EU citizens.
So we're going to save already about $15,000 roughly.
I mean, think about what we pay in healthcare.
But then, that's just for the childcare. And then in healthcare, so for us, because we are self-employed, we're paying, was it $2,000 a month, $1,000 a month?
It was about $1,500 a month.
Yeah.
Plus, we don't get any coverage really, or reimbursement, and not reimbursement, coverage until we pay $3,500 in a deductible.
And I just want to share for people who have not experienced French healthcare, we were abroad and Scotland started getting earache, and we called some service and they said, yeah, a doctor can come to your apartment, but it's going to be very expensive. And we said, well, I guess, that's what we're going to have to do. And that was kind of our only option at the time. And we said, well, how much is it going to be? And they said, oh, it's going to be like 90 euros.
This is in the center of Paris.
The center of Paris. A doctor came to our apartment,
checked your ears,
and then wrote us a prescription. And he was all on his day. And it cost us, I think it ended up being 100 euros. And in America, it's
with
just
the medicine,
not even possible.
That's what I would pay basically just to take her to an appointment.
Yes.
Maybe we have terrible healthcare. I don't know.
So that was
it's
lovely.
Not great, guys.
so that's our first experience. So we'll let you know. We'll give you a full rundown at the end of the year. We'll tell you if it's as good as it seems.
In general, France is supposedly 17% less expensive than the United States overall. So we hopefully will be saving money.
Not that was the only reason. The main reason was we wanted to go for this experience, but it's also a secondary benefit.
Yeah, it had always been a dream. I think that was the main part. We always wanted to try living in Europe. And things don't really make us happy, but experiences do. And these life experiences, these big experiences. So we just wanted to say yes to the opportunity. That's a big life goal. Why not now? Someday is not a day of the week. Let's do it. Someday is now.
So we talked about where we are, why we're doing it, a little bit of how. Should we dive into kind of some of the people we've talked to?
Yeah, I think that's been instrumental in our journey to France.
So to get to where we're going, we've had a lot of help. We have, at this point now, basically we have a team of people helping us. We've spoken with a tax specialist accountant who specializes in French, U.S., tax law, which we're not going to dive into all the details of that. That'll be
Oh, why
another
not?
episode.
So sexy.
We've had a relocation specialist helping us find an apartment. We've had a immigration specialist attorney helping get my green card, and also someone from the social services helping make sure that we are paying our fair share so that we do, what is it?
We are benefiting from social services. And so we just want to make sure that we're, dotting our I's and crossing our T's and making sure we're doing everything properly so that we're not surprised with a bill at the end.
That is that's what we've been warned about, is that you could, if you're not set up properly, you could get a large bill at the very end from social services.
Yes. So we just want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to be law-abiding citizens. And we don't know the laws, so we're trying to enlist the experts to be able to learn them.
And then who else? We just spoken with friends, new friends, literally reaching out on expat communities on Facebook, like the internet was in 2010. And just
message boards and groups and all of that. And people are so willing to help because they've been through it and they know how hard it is. And that's so awesome. Like, we just reached out to a guy on TikTok that moved to Nice from California. He was so willing to hop on a call with us, talk about his whole experience, tips, things to look out for. And I just love that. You can see that there's a sense of community there already.
So, yeah, we've shared where we are, where we're going, what's about to happen. We're about to freak out because we're packing up and
to freak out. I think we're there, buddy. I mean, this stress is high. I'm waking up at night, just my mind is going a million miles a minute, wondering, trying to solve all of these problems that exist because right now, I mean, we're surrounded by bags. Bags are everywhere. Bags are in the room that we're recording right now. Bags are upstairs, and we still have to pack up our house. And luckily, we are renting out our house furnished, and we have the renters coming in about 10 days after we leave. And we should talk about that whole, did you sell your house? Did you rent your house? We're renting it. We're going to keep the asset, and it's cash flow positive. It will pay our mortgage. And that was a huge, if we didn't rent our house, what would we have done?
You mean packing up?
I mean, if we rewind to the beginning idea phase of we want to move.
Oh, that was a go, no go thing. If it didn't rent and cover the mortgage, we just couldn't do it.
Yeah, exactly.
So we did this back in 2015. We did the same thing, and we rented our house. We actually bought the house a few months, 7 months earlier, and then we had the crazy idea and decided to take a gap year, which turned into this. And but we did this again. So here we are having this crazy idea. We bought a house. Now we've been here for almost 3 years, and we said, okay, let's rent it out again. At this point, it's a little bit easier because we were used to the process of actually renting out, kind of putting things in storage. And what's really nice is this house, we're fortunate that we have plenty of space to actually just kind of pack up our things. But most of the big stuff, the kitchen table, the couch, TV, all that kitchen stuff will basically just stay out, and we're renting it furnished.
Can you talk about what it feels like to leave your stuff that you worked so hard to get and to decorate and all of that? I mean, that would be really tough for most people to be like, I'm just going to leave my furniture for strangers to use for a year.
The first time was terrifying because I feel like our identity at that time of life was tied up to those things. We had kind of worked so hard to get all those items. And now we realize, okay, most things can be replaced, and most tenants no one's really going to destroy anything.
We are vetting people.
We're vetting people, yes. So you kind of lose that, or we have lost that attachment over the years. The thing that has been very hard is during this packing process, like just recently, I opened a box you'd packed up, and it was Scotland's toddler books, and I about lost it just because it's not that we're saying goodbye to the books. It's just a phase, and we're taking a lot of books, but just seeing little things. We're coming across all of her baby stuff, and the emotions are running really high, and those seem like the hard things to not get caught up and not lose it over, because it's like you see those little books and you just have all those memories come flashing back, and not that they need to come out because we're at a phase now where those things are ready to go bye-bye, but to see that.
Spoken like a true dad.
But those things are just hard to see, and they're They'd be making emotional.
We can pack nostalgia though, right?
Yes.
We can bring that with us.
We're trying.
It is emotional. It's a different experience than in the past because we're not just packing our stuff up. Yeah, this is the house that we brought our baby home. We have so many memories. This is the house we got a dog. Like there's so many firsts for us as a family, as a couple. And that is really emotional. I've cried a lot. If I'm being honest, I've cried a lot. I cried the other day when I was driving, running errands, going to Goodwill, going to an animal hospital to drop off blankets. I passed my childhood home. I just started crying. I had to pull over. There's just so many memories that are tied to this town. I also grew up here. It is hard. It's a challenge.
I realize we're grieving. We're going through this change curve. And I understand why I'm having joy in the idea of us being in France when we look at a YouTube video and look at pictures or look at the apartments that we might live in and get excited. But then I look at us packing things up and just get so sad thinking that it's a different way of life. But we're choosing that. And it's not easy, but it's what we want to do.
We're choosing to close a chapter.
Which is hard to do.
It's really hard. Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think of it as grief, but that's exactly what it is. And it comes at you at weird times and just smacks you.
Yeah, you look at a book and...
it brings you back. Or I was smelling her baby clothes when I was putting them away and it still had like a baby smell. And it goes right to the heart, man. I'm just going to dive into a little bit of how we're doing it exactly. I know we brushed over it briefly with the Italian citizenship, but that gives us access to France. And because Scott is my husband, he has the spouse of an EU citizen visa. So basically the EU, European Union, wants to keep families together. So if you're the spouse of, parent of, child of an EU citizen, they're going to try to keep you together no matter what country you're going to. Now, there are rules around this, and you still have to put paperwork in and prove that you are a law-abiding citizen in order to get accepted into the system. So that's why we hired an immigration attorney to guide us through this process. But Scott doesn't have the visa yet. We can't actually apply for it until we get there. So we arrive in Nice in a week, and then we get to start the process.
But we spoke to people before. We're not going in blind.
No, we're not going in blind.
We spoke to immigration specialists who said, This is how you do it.
This is, every other visa, digital nomad visa, entrepreneurship visa, you apply for ahead of time. With this spousal visa, nope, just when you get there. Yes. So that's how we're doing it. And I'm excited. I'm nervous,
very excited.
But,
now, the next thing I think we're going to talk about is, has it been easy to do this?
In what way? I mean, no, I don't think it has been easy. I think it feels like the only thing we could do, like follow your dreams, right? Like that, it's easy to listen to your gut, to what you need to do, want to do, desire to do, that someday type goal. But the actual process has been really challenging. I mean, planning things, searching for information, translating, finding the right people to talk to. That's been really hard. And then just the general packing now, what we're in right now, that's tough too.
It feels, having a toddler feels like drinking from a fire hose. Just the constant barrage of emotions and demands, and you're trying to work, and basically it's like you're trying to do an obstacle course and someone's pulling back and tripping on you at all times. And the same thing, it's today we even had like a little tiff that was like normally would be nothing. Well, but it was just, there were so many things going on in both of our lives, or in our minds, I should say, that it was just both of us kind of like snapped a little bit. And then fortunately we kind of stepped away and came back and we're like, I'm sorry. We're both just stressed. And so it's like, it's a tough process. We're both in it together and we have to remind ourselves that on a constant basis, but it's totally normal. It's totally normal to be freaking out a little bit, I think, right?
Yeah, of course. We have so many changes. I mean, moving is one of the biggest changes. And plus we're going to a country where We don't really speak the language. Well, we're
don't.
learning. We're learning.
Okay.
We're learning. We're doing our Duolingo. We're doing our language transfer. It's an amazing app to learn a language. And we're trying. Our accents are terrible, but we will learn. And we have an open mind and an open heart to adventure and learning. And I think Scotland's going to speak more French than us in no time.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Like, what has been the most difficult for you? Is it the planning? Is it the emotional stuff? Is it the unknown? Like, what is your hard in this process?
It's a lot of things. There's so many like categories where it's difficult. It's difficult. One, I underestimated packing up our house, kind of forgot about that. And I was like, oh, we just pack our bags and we'll be good. But then you start to pack your bags and you realize, wait, we're going to be gone for at least a year. For me, it's like, what gear do we need? Like technically, and how is that going to fit? Because I've always had the same backpack with basically the same stuff whenever we do trips. And I just know where everything goes. And now this time I've got to figure it out. And then you start to ask, okay, think like even technical things like, okay, a monitor. Am I bringing a monitor? Am I not bringing a monitor? It's so large. How are we packing it up? The logistics of like suitcases. Which ones are we getting? And literally buying extra ones from Amazon and testing them out. And right now at this point, we'll tell you we've got a few hard suitcases and a few cheap duffels, and we'll let you know how those work out when we get there.
I mean, this is more than I've ever packed other than a move, because I mean, it is a move, I guess.
Yeah.
But we are team carry-on all the way, even with a kid. We're always carry-on. And now we have all of our carry-ons. And then we have, I think, 6 huge 70-pound suitcases. That's a lot. And I'm such a minimalist when we travel. I'm like, let's just shrink everything down and bring like the absolute least amount, because it clears my mind. The less I bring, the clearer my mind is.
I mean, we're usually the people who, at least maybe I am, like the people at the airport who are always coming up, hey, let me help you carry your bags. Like, we got it. Like, we got it. I work out. I'm carrying these bags myself. I don't need help. This trip, I am definitely using their help as much as I can get.
SOS, help.
Help, yes.
Yeah. And we're going to be going on an overnight flight, not just with our baby, but with our dog.
I feel like once we get her on the plane, she's going to be like a lap dog and be fine. It's just the process of getting her on the plane.
Yes. And getting her paperwork to get on
Getting
the plane.
paperwork and doing all that.
That whole thing.
It's the hardest part is there's so many things you're juggling in your mind all at once. And that's literally why, like, it's like we're just on, like, that's why I'm on edge, is because in my mind, I've already got, you can juggle, I don't know, 5 things. On a normal day, you've got 3 or 4 to deal with. Now your mind is just constantly churning with like 100. And it's like, what's Lucy's paperwork going to be like? What am I going to pack? Which luggage am I going to deal with? What gear am I taking? Like, all those questions are still unresolved loops that engine is just turning and turning and turning.
So it goes back to it. I understand that unresolved loop. That's why I keep just going back and my mind races and races. You keep telling me to meditate and I'm like, yeah, okay, maybe later. Probably should.
I mean, meditation would be good at this point. I have found myself just constantly trying to catch deep breaths.
Yeah.
So it's a lot. It's not easy.
But we're controlling the things we can control. We're still working out. We're eating healthy. We're getting some sleep. All those things are great.
We're insane.
Yeah.
We're absolutely insane.
Yeah, but we wouldn't want life any other way if you think about it.
Yeah, there's some days I do. I'm really going to miss our gym.
Oh, we have such an epic garage gym at home in the burbs.
Yeah, going to miss that.
But maybe we'll have an amazing gym at CrossFit Nice or whatever CrossFit we go to.
Yeah.
And then you'll have the mountains and the sea.
I know.
It's going to be great.
It's going to be great. It's going to be insane.
It's going to be hard too. It's going to be really hard and isolating in the beginning, and then it'll get better, and then it'll get worse, and then it'll get better. Well, I mean, I think if we're talking about has it been easy, probably the biggest thing is like the internal conflict and struggles we've gone through with like leaving this place actually. And what does it mean? And why did we move to New Jersey in the first place? And why are we leaving? And it has to do with family and a lot more. And I think we should probably leave that for next week.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Next week, we will talk about all the pain.
The tough stuff.
Yeah.
The tough stuff, because it is tough. It's not easy, guys.
All right.
All right. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.
See you next week.